This connector is bothering me because it just doesn't have enough slack to really reach this easily, and it's very strained, you know, on this intake manifold. And now that I've got kind of more stuff populating through here, I don't really think I'm going to be able to have the slack to run through there without looking at the rest of the harness. So if we follow this harness, it goes up right there, and it goes underneath the fuse box. And I picked up on something here. That run right there, which goes up to the washer, or windshield wiper motor, it's actually fairly snug against that. And as I'm pulling, you can see it's just, I think that is the limiting factor at this moment. So I'm going to grab my panel popper tool and pop that, and then pull the harness out and see if that gives any more slack here. So ideally, my ideal layout would have this harness run back behind the intake manifold and pop up right around here. So I'm going to try it, try to get some more slack. Is an awkward angle. Squeeze in. Okay, cool. So now, I'm gonna let this thing ride momentarily. Let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, so that definitely helped a little bit, but not a whole lot. Not as much as I was hoping for. So now the main body of the harness is really what is keeping it in place. But I'm pulling the engine harness pretty tight. I really don't want to make an extension harness here, because that's a lot of effort for very little gain. The main harness that runs underneath the ABS module, it's got some mounts in there. If I pop those out, I might be able to get a little bit more slack as well. Let's see what we can make happen. Yeah, that bought some slack. Okay. That's definitely a lot better. Okay, that's not too bad now. I just need a way to secure it up there, keep it from dangling on the intake manifold, and the rest of this harness is pretty much just kind of, it's just going to chill where it's at. This mount could actually go right back to where it was originally. Okay, on to the next. So, just test fitting the radiator. This is from the Explorer, and it doesn't really fit. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. So those mounts right there, they're a little too high, and that's preventing this from going underneath the core support to line up with the bolts. Now, I'm thinking you could bend those down to make this drop into place, because you can't really angle it like that because you hit the condenser down at the bottom, and this side's no different. The mount's doing the same thing. So if we look at these radiators, so we've got the 3.0 automatic in front, 5.0 in the back. Let's see that if we line that up, there is just the slightest amount of height. I mean, just barely nothing. So, in reality, this should fit. But I think it's just because it's so beefy. Yeah, you know what? Actually, that really looks like it's the same size. Or the same height. If we look at lining that bolt up to there, I think it's just because it's beefy. So I'm going to go ahead and just try to tweak these down a little bit. Give myself a little space. Okay. All right, I'm going to try pulling the rubber out on this side. So this thing will fit. This Explorer radiator will fit. Like I just showed, I tweaked those brackets down just a little bit, and that helped tremendously to get this thing just in there. So now it's test fitting radiator hoses. So I got the top one here. Tight bend is on the left there. Oh yeah, that'll work. Okay. I'm gonna get these. I'm gonna get hose clamps for these, and then I think I'm gonna leave this one off for now because I'm still working over there. But the bottom one, I can put that one on and then put the belt on. All right, so I'm laying out this heater hoses because I wasn't really liking where the valve is supposed to go. It's supposed to go somewhere like in here, I think, on the Ranger at least. And this hose, I did initially have it flipped. I had the long side down. And what I'm thinking, though, is if I have this somewhat like that, I can cut it here, put the valve there, and then use the last remaining elbow and just fill in the gap down there. So right there, just from there to there, little tight radius elbow. And I think that'll be all right. Now, if I cut this and it turns out not to work, then, oh well, I'll figure something else out. Actually, you know what? I don't think this is going to be permanent yet, so I'm just going to put a little bit of Vaseline on this so it's real easy to get in and out. And even still, it's still pretty tight. Okay. So now this bend is pretty decent. It looks like if I cut right about there, yeah, we'll put that side on the valve. Cut a little bit more. And boom. That's that actually worked out pretty nicely. I'm happy with that. Nice compact, it's out of the way. Good radius on those bends. Alright, now I think this is the vacuum line for it. Wait a minute, is that where it goes? No, that's not where it goes. It goes up here on the top of the actuator. Yep, that's it. Hell yeah. I'm digging that. Alright, I'm going to throw some hose clamps on this. And that'll be done. I got another radiator fan in because the Ford Mustang one did not work. This one is for a Mercedes. And I've got it this far, and you can see on the water pump snout, we're just hitting it. So, come on, you focus. You can do it. Maybe you can't. Okay, so what the plan is, I don't want to modify the fan until I'm sure it will remotely fit. So I'm going to cut the snout off of this with a angle grinder. And that'll open up, an additional 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch of space. But what I'm thinking that if this ends up working, you probably don't have to take that off unless it sits right here where the motor is. This plastic cover actually comes off. It's separate. So I'm gonna... Oh, I'm sorry. It does not come off. That was the other fan. But this plastic cover is not attached to the fan motor itself. The fan motor bolts in those 3 locations. So this cover here could be cut off, reducing that overall depth another like 5/8 of an inch, give or take, maybe a little shy of that. So that, and I don't know if it is, I don't know if you'll be able to really tell, but there's about a 1/4 inch here and 1/4 inch here, and the width of this is damn near perfect if those come off either side to fit between the pinch points on the radiator end tanks. So I'm hoping that once I get that snout lopped off, that I'll be able to slip the unit down and then get an idea on how much clearance I have to make on that motor cover. And then if it all seems like it's working out, I'll lop off those lips, and then that'll give me an additional 1/4 inch or so. What's that? Yeah, I mean that's a pretty heavy 1/4 inch, almost 3/8 of an inch additional clearance that can be picked up just by having this sit directly on the fins. And as far as mounting goes, not really worried about that yet. I want to make sure that it fits, but these obviously this is rotating at 90, so these won't work. And the factory mounts right there, and then the bolt pads, those we'll probably try to use those, but come off with some kind of like steel bracket or something. I don't know, one step at a time. And I think I got it. There is a decent amount of space between the cutoff snout and the the fan motor. Probably a heavy 1/8 inch, maybe, well, depending on where you are on that, it's a little bit more. And the wire, I'll just have to zip tie it to one of these guide vanes. So as far as the mods on it, so like I talked about, I trimmed down the sides, both left and right side, all the way down. And when I did that initial lip, it didn't actually enough didn't come off. So come on, focus. So I had to take it basically right to the edge of the fan housing. And then along the bottom here, well, now is the bottom, I had to take that ledge off as well, which you can see right here. So what was happening is that ledge was making the bottom of the fan stick out an additional 1/4 inch or so. So now when it's dropped into place, goes between between the end tanks, and this lip that I cut off on the other side, this side it sits right on top of the flange of the core. So and it works out really nice that this is like where it should be. If it really probably could drop another like 1/4 inch and be absolutely perfect. And if that was the case, there'd be even less chance of the less chance of that fan motor hitting. And I don't think you could ever push it down far enough to get it to completely clear the snout. So like, I don't think you could bring this up from the bottom, basically, and then make it clear. So if you did this, the radiator fan would be too far down. So now I just need to figure out a means of connecting it to the factory mounting points. I think I'm going to have something for sure down at the bottom with those little clips down there, to keep the bottom of the radiator tight or to keep the bottom of the fan tight to the radiator. And then the top is just going to have that bolt, so it's going to be pretty easy. Just pulled the radiator out so I can work on the mounting system, and it's also a good opportunity so you can see exactly how well this fan shroud covers. And you can see what I was talking about earlier. If I cut this lip off and allowed it to drop a bit more, it would basically be, dead nuts on the core itself. Now, right now, the nose of the water pump is right about here. So, I mean, now that I'm looking at it outside of the vehicle, if it did move about there, I think that would put the nose right there, which means potentially you could maybe slip this in from the bottom and not have to cut off the motor cover right here, and have it maybe not even cut off the snout of the water pump. And better yet, you could flip this whole thing around and have the wires coming out of the bottom. It would send the relay or the resistor pack out that way. So, I mean, this is a hindsight project, so I'm gonna run with this. So I've figured out a solution for mounting. That's almost finished, just stuff to weld. I've got a piece of angle iron and drilled 2 holes, slapped it in here, drilled the corresponding holes in there, and then I'm putting thread certs or riv nuts in the angle iron. So in the event that I do need to replace this, I don't have to put those riv nuts in the actual body itself. That was my initial thought, is to do that and then bolt from the outside. So it's not ideal having bolts going from the inside, because if they back out, they're gonna potentially hit the fan. But it's a better solution than one extra step to modify a replacement. I know it's like, dude, you've mutilated this thing. That little bit extra wouldn't make much of a difference. But the way I see it, if I'm out in the wilderness, aka like driving on a road trip to Ocean City for cruise week or something, and the fan fails, if I manage to get a replacement, I can buy a cheap $20 angle grinder and hack off the parts that I need to hack off, but I won't have a riv nut tool on hand to do that. So that would this eliminates that potential. So after I drill these holes, excuse me, I use the step bit to find the correct hole size for that, and then I come in with this countersink, and I just kind of wallow it out to get this flange as flush as I can with the surface. Whoop, okay. So that helps minimize the amount of space that's left to basically pivot on. So when you have that that flange proud of your surface, all of the load from that angle or bracket is placed on that surface, not on the mounting surface of the two faces, of the two pieces. It's real nerdy shit, but it's something that's always bothered me about these riv nuts is that flange there. And the only way I've been able to really figure out a solution is to just countersink, assuming your material thickness is heavy enough or thick enough. So I'm gonna go ahead and whip this one up now, and finish that up, and then throw this back in the truck. Now for the bottom, I initially was gonna try to use the factory little clips here, but the angle, especially on this side, that you'd have to overcome to get around this, even though I'm not using it, there's just not, this fan assembly has to slide flush with the radiator when it's being installed, and there's no way that I'd be able to get that little wing up and over this to then land here. So the solution is to just drill some holes down here and use the existing holes that are in the radiator flanges, the core flanges, and just run zip ties down the bottom. That's going to be the most effective way to make this easily serviceable. And then it's down to wiring. Hell yeah. Fans in. Got the zip ties on the bottom. The little brackets worked and they all bolt up. Now this side, I don't have in yet because I've got a overflow tank. This is just an Amazon special. I'm kind of disappointed in it. I mean, yeah, it is Amazon special. Let me get situated here. The lid here is damn near impossible to open because it's so thin. Their dimensions said 1/2 inch, and that's just a total lie. But it's the blade style, so it's almost like a motorcycle gas tank lid, and that's not really what I was hoping for. But this is what I got, so this is what I'm going to use. So it's going to go right here, right about there. And I've actually already whipped up the bracket. The bracket will go those two mounting points, and then the third point actually will go right to the radiator fan mount. And it's right here, just drying with some paint. So once that's in, then I can start on the wiring for the fan. Now I've already cut the wires off of the back of this resistor pack because I do not plan on using it. I have that connector right there is the stub out for the fan control built into this Arduino. So I'm going to run those wires probably over here and mount the fan relays and fuses over here so it's close to the battery, close to all the power source. And then I'll make the final connection. Well, fuses and relays. I'm used to running dual fans. So it'll be one relay, one fuse, and wire to the one fan connector. And then that'll be done, ready for coolant. And then I can pop the intercooler back together, blow off valve, get that plumbed up with a vacuum line. And there's not much else keeping me from doing a test drive short of the drive shaft, which is at the machine shop right now being retubed.